Recording.
Am I gonna leave on there?
Nope, it's telling you to have your phone this way.
Okay. Let's hit the other one.
I gotta rotate it.
Hi guys, we're back. I need to tilt that phone up a little bit.
There we go.
All right, so we are going live. Welcome to Facebook Live. I'm so excited if we could get this thing fixed.
I swear I'm trying. There we go.
I got thumbs all over the place, so hopefully I'll have more than just nobody. So I'm gonna wait for a couple people to jump on and then we are gonna get started. We are gonna be doing the core today. So I am really excited because the core is absolutely my favorite thing to do, one of my favorite things to do. I do it every day, and the reason why I love doing the core, hi, thank you so much for joining. I'm super excited to teach this today. So it is so nice. Ryan, you are back on. Ooh, I love it. Okay, core. The reason why I love core so much is because to me, the core goes from here to here. It goes from the shoulder to the top of the leg. It's everything that isn't your arms or legs. It is the trunk of your body. It is your axial skeleton. It literally holds the center of you together. So most people, when they talk to me, they talk about core. They talk about the fact that it's their abs and they do a core workout and they only do they do crunches or they do leg ups or they do everything. And they're missing out on some of the best work ever. The biggest issue that I see with a lot of people is they overuse hip flexors or rib margin, which is the top of your abs, or the hip flexors take everything and the actual core doesn't get used. So again, kind of like the periscap, like we were doing it before, we're gonna go into the subtle movements. So you have 4 abdominal muscles, okay? You have 4 muscles. You've got the superficial rectus abdominis, which lines the bottom of your rib cage, the rib margin, and it goes all the way down to your pubic bone. That's your 6-pack. Then deep to that, you have these 2 muscles that do this. These are your internal and external obliques, and they're perpendicular, and they line like this, and I can't do that. They do this. And they come in and out like that, and they allow us to rotate, they allow us to laterally flex, and they support. And then deep to that, you've got these big transverse abdominis that come all the way down and wrap themselves around you like your girdle or your weight belt. The thing with the abs is they lay on top of one another. When you get one, you're gonna get the most, and again, we're gonna talk about a driver. You're driving with one area. They're all attached. So you're not just gonna only get one area of your abs, you're going to drive with that area and focus. Anybody who has back issues, anybody got back problems right now, send me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up if you are calling here with a back problem, because I have the solution for you. You've tried everything, yeah. You've tried everything, you've gone, my Pilates ladies, my yoga people, this is a big issue for a lot of people. And you're doing core and you're doing planks and you're doing everything. The thing with the core, I'll show you, is that from our rib margin to our belly button, we got the core on lock. Every time we sneeze, scream, yell, shush, hiccup, yell at your spouse, whatever, or your kids, pick your head up, you're using this. So if I have Carla pick her head up, you see her rib margin drop down? She's using it. She's got core for days. Drop your head. Here's the deal. The core goes from here to here. Here to here, actually, front and back, but here to here is what we're talking about, right? The belly button to the pubic bone doesn't get used as much. The reason why is, if you've had kids, this guy gets stretched out. If you sit a lot, these guys are taking over, these big hip flexors. Most of the time, these hip flexors, they lock on and they do more than anything here. We sit all the time, here, this doesn't get used. So today I'm gonna show you how to actually just isolate and drive from the belly button to the pubic bone. We're gonna have a little exclusive party here. Belly button to the pubic bone. Everybody with me so far? Throw me some hearts if this is something that you're like, ooh, I like it. Yes, I like it. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna pull down your belly, so show your belly button. So we're at Carla's belly button right here. The big thing that I ask is when I say, ask people to pull their belly in, most people think when they have to tuck they suck in their belly or pull their belly in, they actually do it from their chest. So I want you to pull your belly in towards your, good. So what she does is she pulls her belly in. A lot of people will either go up to their chest and drive up through their chest and into their shoulders. What Carla did is she pulled her belly in and her quads just took over. So go ahead and relax. I have her in these cool tights too that show all her muscles so that you can see everything that's going on. So pull your belly in again. So when she pulls her belly in, her hip flexors go poop. I don't know if you guys can see that on camera, but you can totally see it here. Relax. Yeah, perfect. So now, here's how we're gonna do this. We're gonna have Carla, I'm gonna put my hand right on top of Carla's belly button. I want Carla just to pull her hand away from pull her belly button away from my hand. And in doing that, it's almost like you've had a big lunch and your pants are a little tight. Pull your belly away from your pants. Perfect. When she does that, she's activating every part of this core, but she's not allowing these guys to get involved. Because what we're doing is we're retraining the core and we're retraining the abdominal area to actually activate without these big hip flexors being a part of it, or without the rib margin driving down and taking over. Remember, we're isolating from here to here, and we're just reminding her that she's got this deep ab going on in here. Rectus abdominis attaches to the pubic bone, and it actually creates posterior tilt. So most of us that are trying to do posterior tilt all the time, you can relax. I've got you in like a contracted state the whole entire time. Poor Carla. So if we have from the belly button to the pubic bone, we've got this deeper abdominal area. I don't know if that shows up on camera, but you can actually see it. But when people do posterior tilts, which is pulling your butt underneath, going into a glute bridge, they don't even use these, they use these. So pull your belly button away from my hand like you just had a big lunch. Yeah, as soon as she does that, she locks onto here. Next thing I'm gonna have Carla do is I'm gonna have Carla pull her pubic bone up towards her belly button like she's got a rope on either side of her belly button and it's attached. So she's gonna pull this up towards here. Good. She still uses her quads and her quads pop up a whole lot. So now I'm gonna have her relax. Yeah. I'm gonna have her pull her belly button away from my hand, like she had a big lunch. So now she's in her chest. Relax again. Good. Watch the shift happen. I'm not gonna say watch her chest because that's weird. Watch the shift happen up to Carla's chest. Pull your belly button. Good. Do you guys see how everything kind of scoots that way? So relax your shoulders and relax your head. Good. Pull this away from my hand. Good. So now, instead of having a rope that goes from your belly button to your pubic bone, a great cue is, and if you've had me as your therapist, you'll know this one. If you are going into freezing cold water and you are walking in the ocean, anybody walked in the ocean and it's freezing, give me a hand, give me a little shake, give me something about that. A thumbs up, I'll take it, smiley face, what it is. You're going and the water's getting colder and colder and colder and colder and it comes up to about here. Pull your stuff out of the water. So as soon as you pull your junk out of the water, it's a deep Kegel. It's also a deep ab exercise. It'll actually pull you into posterior tilt without injecting itself into these hip flexors or your front butt action. Make sense? Everybody with me? Awesome. So now we've got the whole abdominal core activated. We're gonna relax everything. I'm gonna have Carla pull away from my hand. She's gonna pull her junk out of the water, or goodness, whatever it is. Pull your stuff out of the water. Good job. And as she does that, you can actually see her abs coming down towards her back. She's now engaged all of these areas. And now we're gonna have to let these big legs of hers relax because they still wanna take over. The big mistake that people make is they let hip flexors do the work of the lower abs. The The big mistake people make is they let the hip flexors do the work of the lower abs. I'll say it a million times. The thing is that these are doing it all the time. This isn't getting it, and you know what else isn't getting it? Glutes. So then there's an imbalance. When these get too tight and this can't support it, it's gonna go into low back, and then you're gonna have low back pain. Or worse, you're gonna have loaded one side more than the other, and then you're gonna have rotation of the pelvis and low back pain. Core is essential for doing the small movements. Doing small movements. Everybody with me? Throw me a couple of hearts if you guys are with me on this one. I'm trying to watch both screens, so you got me on this. I'm trying to see if I see hearts going through on anything, because right now I see nothing. So I, for whatever reason, have nothing going on. All right, perfect. So I'm gonna have Carla bend her knees, and she's gonna put her feet flat on the table, both. So now, what this does is this is just gonna make this easier to do. We're gonna do the same exact movement. We're gonna have a party, and the party is actually still exclusive. It's gonna be from the belly button to the pubic bone. The legs are not invited, the feet are not invited, and this upper body is not invited. The brain's invited, but the brain is at 7-Eleven getting snacks right now. So it's gonna take a minute to get here. Because we've done this for so long, we have to turn off the quads and off the hip flexors and remind the abs that they have a job to do. So again, this tends to be a little more tedious, but what we're trying to do is calm down the nervous system and reroute everything. So when you're, as a clinician, if you are doing this, you're watching for leg movement, you're watching for hip flexors popping up, and you're watching for the upper body doing a whole lot more. And you're watching for potentially her feet being pushed into the table. So I'm gonna have Carla pull her belly button in towards her spine, and then she's gonna pull her pubic bone up towards her belly button. And now doing that, that's gonna disengage her hip flexors right here, and she's actually able to go into posterior tilt. So her back gets flush to the table, but her driver are her abs. Her drivers are her low abs. They're not her back. If you push the back into the table, you're still missing out on this. You have to remind the brain that this has a job to do. Another thing that we can do to make sure that this is being activated is through a forced exhale. The thing with the transversus abdominis, this guy right here, is we're not tacos. We don't fold this way. So we only can activate this through a forced exhale. But you'll get this, you'll get internal, external oblique because they are diagonal. And then you'll also drive down into the rib margin. So you'll get a little bit more of the rectus abdominis, but you'll be able to get this because you'll be blowing all of your air out. So I'm gonna have Carla take a deep breath. She's gonna put her teeth together and she's gonna shush me, or shush Mike, don't shush me. Shush Mike as loud as possible.
I didn't hear you, Carla.
So Carla is leaking right now. She's not really shushing. So here's what it's gonna sound like. Shh.
Okay, again.
Yeah, do that again, round 2.
That's not gonna get me to be quiet.
So she's still kind of figuring out the shush part. She's got a few kids.
I'm not used
She's
to
got a
telling
couple of
anyone
kids. She never tells anyone to shush. I don't know where that's coming from. So would you please shush me?
Okay.
Hard. There it is. So when she shushes really hard, you can feel this drive in and it all locks down. And it's a deep, deep activation. Can you feel the difference in there? Okay, relax here. So by doing that, now that she knows the feeling, now we're gonna replicate it. So now pull your belly button away from my hand, and I want you to pull this up and in. Yeah, do you feel that? So now we're replicating that movement, and if you notice, her pelvis did the movement, her legs didn't. Because if her legs are doing it, you're gonna notice her legs go into abduction, which they're gonna shake, or her hamstrings are gonna light up like Christmas, and or her hip flexors. The other thing to look at if you're a clinician, do not be pushing your feet into the ground. They are the farthest thing away from your hip joint. The idea is to activate the muscle that's closest to the joint that you're trying to move, which is the hip joint, or use the hip joint to activate, or closest to the muscle that you're trying to activate, which is your low abs. Either way, it's the hips. Hips are the only thing we're working out here. If you use the feet to cue and you push from the feet, you have the ankle joint, the knee joint, and the hip joint before you even get into this good stuff. So if we go from here, now we're just isolating and able to pull up and in. Relax. Everybody with me so far? Shh. Okay, so this is key for activation of any type of core. The key for this is making sure that these big hip flexors don't do the job. So at first, they really tried to get involved, and by us holding this for 5 to 10 seconds, her brain gets to the party, it's unloaded the snacks, and now it's able to go back into the hip flexors, and it's able to drop these off, go back here. Now the farther that she pulls into a posterior tilt, her glutes are gonna get involved, because now we've shortened the angle between the glute attachments of the ischial tuberosity and the top of the pelvis, right? So between the ilium and the ischial tuberosity, there's this giant angle, and now it's been shortened because she goes into posterior tilt. So what we're trying to do is remind it this working and this working. That's going to support all of this, and it's going to balance out that pelvis of instability. So if you are doing any kind of core work, the biggest mistake that you can make is to try and use these and overuse these. So what I want her to do is now go back into straighten your legs for me. And now we're going to see if she can actually pull her belly in, pull her pubic bone in. And do you see the difference in how she can actually do it? You can actually see her posterior tilt. And it's hard to do it when you're laying straight, but her quads don't even move now. And she's got these cool little muscles to see what she's doing, and they're not even moving. It's so great. Relax. Good, let's do that one more time. Pull your belly button in, pull your pubic bone up towards your belly button to pull your stuff out of the water. And you can actually see how much flatter her core is. Can you feel the difference in there? Yeah, it's a deep, deep, deep activation. And with this, when you start using this, these big, long levers become easier to move. If you are having any kind of hip snapping, where your tendons snap over, if you're doing Pilates and you're snapping the tendon into the hip joint, it's because this isn't activated. And the tendons of the hips are trying to override everything. If you are having imbalance where you're feeling it into your low back, it's because this isn't activated. So it's pulling the belly in and pulling the pubic bone up towards the belly button. That's going to get you to the start of your posterior tilt. It's also going to be great for you who are doing a hip thrust, because what do you use when you do a hip thrust? Your glutes. But if you can't stabilize with your lower abs, your glutes aren't going to do the job of turning on, because they can't, because one has to pull into the other. Otherwise, it'll be start of glute and go into low back, because this is what stabilizes you into that posterior tilt. I don't know if everybody got that. Does everybody get that? It's kind of everybody's doing a hip thrust these days, and they're all trying to drive from their legs. If you drive a hip thrust from your legs, you're going to get your calves, you're going to get your quads, your hamstrings, maybe a little glute, but most of the time it jumps over glute, goes right to low back, because you're not stable here. If you're doing any kind of heavy lifting, squatting, lunging, the lower core has to be the one that does the work. Because if it's not doing the work, it's not balancing and it's not stabilizing everything. Any questions? You guys have no questions for me. This is fantastic.
Not that good of a teacher.
I'm so good. Does that make sense, you guys? Does that make sense? It seems like it would be easy to do, but it is really the biggest thing with doing any kind of work like this is it's got to be intentional. And if you are doing this yourself, I would highly recommend putting your hands on your own hip flexors, because what you'll do is as you're touching them and you're pulling this in, these will go first. Because if you get fatigued, then they'll go right back to the dominant pattern. And so your dominant muscles will override your dormant muscles. And or your dominant muscles will just do all of the work, period, if you load strength, or if you load weight, or if you do any kind of momentum based. So this is a slow, intentional movement that you're gonna hold for 10 to 15 seconds. And you're gonna hold 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 times for 10 to 15 seconds. Because what we're doing is we're not just reminding them, we're also recruiting these muscle fibers back to the brain. Because the brain, the whole central nervous system has to get reminded that this works. For those of us that have had children that are a little stretched out in here as far as the muscle structure, for those who have had diastasis recti, who have a small case of DR, this is going to be the best thing for you to help pull everything back in, because you're recruiting the muscle fibers that have gotten forgotten about how to work. They've lost their way. So if you have any kind of a hernia as well, doing a really light pull the belly in away from the hand versus sucking everything up and forgetting how to breathe, you should be able to hold this position and breathe easily at the same time. This will also be super beneficial for anybody who has back pain, because the minute you pull this up and in, this and the low back do opposing actions. So two opposing muscle groups can't contract and move at the same time. So if you're contracting here, the back has to release. It's just the way it works. So and you'll notice that if you really are having serious back pain, you won't be able to do this move. It's going to be extremely challenging for you. So laying on your back and really working how to get this muscle really, really, really strong and active will be the start of a whole chain of events of strength change in you, and not overusing the legs to do everything. Everybody got it? Big hearts if you got the understanding. If you can't remember what to do, take a deep breath, shove it out your teeth like you're a cappuccino maker, and shush as many people as you possibly can, because it's the only way that you can get away from shushing and not getting in trouble. So shushing is a good thing. I shush everybody, whether I need to or not. And the nice thing is when you do this enough, this becomes your new normal. So where you first may be having challenges doing it, soon this is going to be just how you do it. It'll just be really natural for you to be able to pull this up and in, and the quads won't even be part of the situation. And your glutes are going to turn on. Your glutes are going to be ridiculous. So if I were to show you really quickly, go ahead and go into bend your knees and put your feet flat. So Carla's going to start into a posterior tilt. She's going to pull her belly away from my hand. She's going to pull her lower abs, so she's going to pull her pubic bone towards her belly button, going into a posterior tilt. So pull your junk out of the water. Her stuff gets a little bit, drops down towards her spine, and then her glutes start to turn on. As she starts to move her glutes up and roll her sacrum about 1/2 inch off the table, her belly actually goes towards the table even more, because it's a pulley system. As this pulls down and stabilizes, now you get to have a mover. And so now your glutes become the mover, and they get to do the work of lifting you up off the table. So pull this in and down, squeeze here, and roll your sacrum up off the table about 1/2 inch. Good. And as she's doing that, the glutes turn on and these go away, because we've been working on this. And relax. Good. Pull this in and up and flatten. Good. And roll this up. Do you see how tight
Much
and
better.
flat her back gets? And then her glutes get to do the work. Do you feel your glutes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And relax. And then she's going to pull down and in, pull this back, and squeeze. This is a glute bridge. This is the start of a true posterior tilt and a glute bridge. So if she's going into doing this, she's getting into a hip thrust. Glutes are going to do the job. The glute's job is to take the leg away, and the hamstring takes the leg away. But you have to let this actually get involved. That's stabilizing here first. So, any questions? Everybody with me? I'm watching like 18 cameras, so I don't know. Relax. Poor Carla. I have her in Carla in like full contraction this whole time. She's gonna be so sore going into whatever. But the cool thing is, if you are in the bodybuilding, fitness, figure world, this is gonna get you that deep line into your lower abs that most people can't get. You can diet, but you still can't get it. Most people will have a great 4-pack and forget and have nothing down here. It's just because they don't know, because they've already hit their hip flexors, and their hip flexors are doing all the work, and their lower abs aren't able to actually get it. By pulling this down and in, you're training this area, and you're gonna have that deep, deep cut down there that most people aren't gonna be able to get. That's the difference. This requires patience, this requires time, this requires being intentional and having foundational movement. Going back to the small movements to create the big movements. Small movements make the big movements easy. So go ahead and relax. Hopefully you guys really enjoyed it. I love having you on, and I so appreciate you guys following me, and I so appreciate it. I hope I did everything that you wanted me to do, and I can't wait to make more videos for you. And if there's something that you want me to do, and for whatever reason you haven't seen it yet, send me some messages, because I'll create anything that you want me to create within reason. I will be able to do it. So if there's a topic that you want me to cover, I love it. I will totally do it, and I'll try to explain it as easily as possible for you. So I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I'll see y'all on the next live. Bye.